So I've been wanting to sew this Butterick retro pattern from 1953. I think it's beautiful, but I've been putting it off because the bodice looks complicated. And I've been sewing for over 20 years, but this is where I feel like what's the word? Like a fraud? Or, I don't know, yeah, I guess just a fraud, because I learned to sew when I was 7 years old. My mom taught me to sew, and I've taken classes for sewing and like stuff like that. But sometimes I still feel like I didn't learn the proper way, so I feel that I'm not really an accomplished seamstress. And so a lot of times I'm like, oh, that looks too hard. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do something easy. And then I get frustrated because I feel like I'm limited. But then there's some day, I don't think there's anything wrong with not doing, like sometimes you just want an easy project, and I don't think there's anything wrong with choosing an easier project just to get that feeling of like, oh, I sewed something, I accomplished something. But sometimes I get frustrated because I want to make stuff like this, and I feel not equipped to do it. So I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna express my troubles and my frustrations as I do it, and we can figure this out together. So stay tuned and let's see. So I have this idea. I want to make a butter yellow. Butter yellow has been on my mind this summer. I made the most beautiful 1950s dress this past summer fairly quickly, and I don't know, it was just so bright and red and blue, and it looks like a costume, and I guess it technically is a costume at this point, but I wear it to church and stuff, so it's fine. All right, so I am usually a size 12 in Butterick. Lately I've been needing to add more to the back though, so you know what, if that's the case, that's the case. 14 is too big everywhere else, so if I have to add a couple inches to the back, I'll do that. Okay, so it looks like this pattern must have a side zipper, which makes sense because it's a retro 1953 pattern. Okay, this pattern piece or instruction piece is in another language, so I'm just gonna get that out of my way because it's just gonna end up confusing me. Maybe I should move the candles. I'm gonna try and explain this as I go so that all you people watching might, actually learn something from this. That's my hope and dream. I just have to figure out how to place the camera. So if it's a little rough, have some mercy on me, and I'll figure it out as the channel continues. Okay, so with patterns, this is view A, view B. I don't really know what the difference is other than this has contrasting fabrics and this doesn't. It looks like the pattern pieces are, you have view A and view B for for pretty much all the same pattern pieces. So as we go along, we'll figure out what the differences are, but I really think it's just the color thing. So when you're cutting out a pattern, you want to find the number that is your size. So I'm a 12, so I'm gonna cut, here's 14, 12, can you see all this? I think so, yeah. Okay, 14, 12, 10, 8, 6. So I'm gonna cut everything on this dotted line. I'm gonna follow this broken line here. It gets tricky because you have to figure it out like throughout the whole pattern piece. So you just want to be careful that you're following, follow, I think. Okay, yeah, so it changes to up here. It changes to the next to last line here, but it's the next to first line here, if that makes sense. So just when you're cutting out pattern pieces, be very aware that it could be like line 2 here, but line 4 up top. Hopefully that makes sense. You'll see it as I cut it. So this is bodice. This is the front or the back? It's not saying. That's odd. Not facing. Yeah, this is gonna be a wild ride. I just know it. But I'm gonna start from the bottom. Oh, you can't see that. Okay. what I want to know with this dress is if it's more of like a wraparound style or like fold up, or if this is a side zipper situation. Because I have seen dresses where it's kind of like an illusion and there's no actual zipper, it's kind of just tied in weird ways. And I'm kind of thinking this might be some of the same thing. I'm at Mood Fabrics in New York City, and I'm about to I'm gonna try and find some fabric. I was pretty sure I wanted butter yellow, but then I was thinking about it last night and I was thinking maybe I wanted a different color, so we'll go in and see.
Is it all the same?
Yes. I only have like 15 minutes, so I'm gonna try and pick out. I need it to be cotton, and I'm a little overwhelmed because there's so much to choose from, so I should probably just ask for help.
Yeah, I got a whole lot.
All right, well, I found the fabric I wanted. I was getting ready, I had them cut it, I was getting ready to pay, and their machines don't accept Discover cards, so I had to leave my $90 worth of fabric, and I felt really bad, but like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I don't carry cash. It was really nice fabric too. It was super thick. It would have been perfect. It was a lot of money though, so it's better this way. But I just felt bad because I had to cut it, and I didn't end up buying it. So headed to Aladdin now to do some day work, and hopefully find somewhere else. I guess in Jersey, I'll get some fabric because I don't really know where else to get it in New York. I guess I could ask someone at the theater, but I don't know if I will be tromping all over the city. But where do I get it at home? I used to get a lot of my fabric at Joann Fabrics, but they close. I know there's a lot of people who don't like Joann Fabrics. That's fine. But it was convenient, it was close. And I'm in the city 3 days a week, so Mood is convenient, but it's not right now, so. I kind of changed my mind on what my whole plan was. So I went to Mood, they did not accept my credit card, so I left all the fabric there, and while I was at work, I found another fabric store to check out, which was called AK Fabrics Incorporated or something like that. That was on 39th. And they ended up having a lot of choices, a lot of colors for a lot cheaper. So this is definitely the better option because I needed 5 yards. So instead of paying $18 a yard, this was only $10 a yard. So quite a bit cheaper. Not that the fabric isn't worth it or anything like that, but it's a lot less money. So originally I wanted butter yellow, and I found butter yellow, but then this fabric came across my way, and I don't know how it's showing up right now. It's looking like alphaba green, but it's more of a teal color, and I thought it was very pretty. I don't believe I have any teal dresses. I do have a very like shamrock green dress that I didn't really think about when I was purchasing this, so I'd say that's the closest one that I have. But I like to wear bright colors, and I like to have a variety of different colors in my wardrobe. So I do tend to go for a lot of red, and I'm trying to stay away from buying more red fabric because I have so many red dresses and red shoes, because it's a color I think looks good on me because I have dark hair and eyes and my skin's, you know, olive. So usually red looks good on those type of people. I wanted thick, not canvas, but this is definitely, it's not like as thick as upholstery fabric, but it's not a thin cotton, so it will definitely hold up well. I'm gonna cut this out now. I decided not to make a mock-up practice piece because, in all honesty, I am afraid that if I do that, I will lose interest in the project and not actually make the real thing, or it's gonna be so ugly, like the fabric that I don't like, it's gonna turn out so ugly looking that I just can't envision a prettier version of it. So I studied the instructions last night. The shoulders, connecting the shoulders is the only thing that has me stumped right now, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. This is definitely 45-inch width fabric. So fabric usually comes in either 45 or 60-inch, meaning when I open this up, it's a full 45 inches. And this was on like a smaller rectangular bolt, but a lot of times fabric comes on a roll, and oftentimes in that case it's 60 inches wide. So depending on what size it's on the bolt determines how much fabric you need. So for this dress, I got 5.5 yards. This is the fold of the fabric. I'm going to be, and this is the selvaged edge. So the selvaged edges are lined up together. The fold is on this side, and the arrows say to cut on fold. So that means I'm going to lay the pattern piece against the edge, which like of the fold, so it will open up into one big piece. And if you look at the instructions on your pattern, they will tell you how to lay each piece on the fabric to best make use of all the fabric that you have. For dress B, which is the blue one we're doing because we're not doing a contrast color, I think I will add a yellow belt and yellow buttons though to make the dress pop. We are going to look at dress and belt B, 45 inches. So right here on the pattern instructions, you will see this little diagram here, and that tells you how to lay out your pieces on the fabric to best make use of your fabric. So I'm starting with pattern piece 2. Yeah, pattern piece 2. So we're looking at the smaller picture right here. And it looks like I actually have it lined up okay. I have the fold, center front on fold. So these little arrows that we want parallel to the selvaged edge, we are lining up against the fold of the fabric. These are called notches, and they are very important when you're sewing, when you're using a pattern. You can either cut directly like into it, or what my mother taught me is you make a little triangle like this, and you just kind of, so it like hangs off. And these help you match up the pattern pieces when you're sewing. So when you're like pinning and you want to know like what piece sits where, the notches help a lot. So they're very easy to forget, especially if you're a beginner. So pay special attention that you are cutting every notch. You will thank yourself later. And I mean, it's not like the whole project's ruined if you forget, but if you do forget, go back and mark them with chalk or something, because you're gonna want them. I recommend, if you have a cat, to put your cat in another room when you sew, because they will be all over your project. All right, I have the two first pieces cut. Now we're gonna cut the skirt and the other bodice pieces. Okay, now this is interesting because we're gonna cut out the skirt and the bodice pieces, and they want you to open the fabric to its full width. So here it says SL, SL. That means that either side has the selvaged edge. So right now, just this side has this, like there's the two selvaged edges are touching, and then we have the fold on this side, but they want it open so that you have the selvaged edge on each side, and that's because we have a full circle skirt. So it's just gonna take up a ton of fabric, because on its own, because folded, like this really doesn't fit in any configuration. So we're gonna open the fabric and do it the way they want. Let's move this. As it takes up the whole living room. I kind of feel like I got too much too much fabric, but maybe not. This is saying, this is where pattern reading can get confusing, because the pattern is saying cut 1 on fold, but this is clearly showing that it wants you to put the pattern against the selvaged edge, because there's no room to cut it on the fold. And we have the picture to show. But if I go over here, it says center back on crosswise fold. Now I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know what it's talking about. Crosswise fold. Like, what I don't understand is there is no fold at this point. So we're just gonna follow the visual instructions and take it as it comes. I don't even know if you can say trust the process at this point. I don't like to stall my project just because I don't know what something is, or give up because I don't know what something is. And I'm also not willing to go like research this intently at the moment. So I'm just gonna follow the pictures, take it step by step, and see where we get. Center back on, wait a second. I wonder if that means, I think I figured it out. I think what they want is the pattern pieces are gonna be next to each other, so there's like this invisible fold. So instead, they said cut 1, but essentially you're using the pattern twice. Please hold, I will show you what we mean by that. Work this way, yeah, okay, yeah, that's what they mean. Because crosswise, you can do it like this. Yep, that's gonna work. They have this piece cut on the fold as well. And the way they have it pictured here is really confusing, because they have it as if it's laid out flat, but they have like one of the pieces has little dots on it, and the other piece is blank here, like here. So I do think that probably means pretend it's on fold, if that makes sense. I guess we could go to the key. Right side of fabric, wrong side of fabric. Okay, so I think what they're trying to say here is you're just supposed to know to turn it over, to fold the fabric and cut it on the fold. And here we had to do it like crosswise, but for this, it didn't say cut on crosswise fold. It just says cut on fold. So that means I'm gonna bring the selvaged edges together again, or at least closer. Remove the cat, first of all. One thing I didn't do today when I bought the fabric was to buy any matching thread. So this is the closest that I have. So it's what I'm gonna use for now. And actually, if I sew the whole thing with it, I'll just have to get more of this color. Not my first choice, but we're going with what we got. So for the bobbin, you follow the broken lines here. So it wants you to twist it around like this, except you have to go, I'm doing this with one hand here. Yeah, okay. And then you're gonna thread it through the bobbin, so you wanna come through the top of this little hole right here. So you have the center of the bobbin, and then you have the little side hole. Just put it through the side, pull the thread up, place the bobbin on the little metal piece, and then switch the metal piece to hit this white thing. Just press on the pedal and it lines your bobbin. Okay, and that's full enough for now. And then when you're putting a bobbin in this type of machine, you want to make sure that the tail of the thread is going counterclockwise. And then you pop it in the little bobbin spot, and there's these little metal grooves that you then have to kind of backtrack and thread the tail through like that. Feels like it's getting stuck though, so I think that's in. We'll know soon enough. Thread the machine. You're gonna follow the non-broken numbers all the way here. And what I mean by that is like these were the broken lines for the bobbin, and that's how you know it's the bobbin. But then you have one, you hook it through here, around here, and you come down here, get to 4, go up to 5, use the wheel on the side, bring this number 5 up. Where'd it go? There it is. Thread it through here, down here to 6, and then right next to the needle, I call it flossing the tooth. When I teach kids, I'm like, don't forget to floss the tooth. Pardon my nail polish, by the way, that's really horrendous. And then you thread the needle. We're going through 1, then 2, down to 3, under 4, hook through 5, get behind 6, floss the tooth, lower the presser foot, cut your thread so that it's like it doesn't fray at the edge, and then stick it through the needle. And use the wheel on the side to like go down into the bobbin. It brings up the bobbin thread, and then I usually use the little window piece to just pull it all out. Actually, yeah, get the tail. All right, so that was successful. It pulled the tail through, and now you put both threads, like the top thread goes through the slit, and they both tails should sit directly behind your machine. And when you start every seam, both tails need to be under the presser foot and behind the machine. And then obviously put your window back on. So we're ready to go. I cut out all the pattern pieces except these pieces. Now these pieces are supposed to reinforce the neck, but because the fabric is pretty thick and it's lined, I'm not going to do that. They want you to cut interfacing. So you wouldn't even be cutting like regular fabric with this. You would use interfacing, which is a gauzy, it stabilizes fabric, and it's usually, they have iron on, so it's very thin. It's like fabric with little glue dots, and it's great if your fabric is thinner and you want to reinforce the neck. I don't want it to be too thick and too stiff, and the fabric is super stiff already, so I'm not gonna do it. So, don't necessarily take that advice, but that is the choice I am making. I'm gonna look at the instructions and just take it one step at a time, and by that I mean I'm going to follow each step. So on your pattern, you'll have numbers, and this says that it is, it's the instructions for both dresses. So dress A and B. We're doing B because we're not doing 2 separate colors. And it says, note, illustrated for view A unless otherwise indicated. So it's pretty much all the same thing. I think they just don't want you to get confused, you know, if you're using a contrasted color. A lot of times, instead of following the directions, I'll be like, oh, well, I know how to sew a bodice, so I'm gonna do it out of order, or I'm gonna sew all the darts first, or whatever. And that's fine, but I am a little overwhelmed by the complexity of this pattern. So I am going to just follow it, take it one step at a time, because it just gives me what I need to know one step at a time. So that's what we're gonna do. I will need to iron some of the fabric, so I have my ironing board because there were some creases in the fabric. So if you're doing this, make sure you have an iron ready, because you're gonna wanna iron open your seams and the darts and all that. Okay, so step 1 is fuse front neck interfacing to wrong side of front facing following manufacturer's instructions. Okay, but we're not doing that. Reinforce side edges of front, pivoting at inner small circles as shown. Clip diagonally to small circles. All right, so we're gonna reinforce the edges where they were talking about. On top, we are going to mark out our circles and darts. So all these lines and things, we're not gonna draw out the lines, but we are gonna draw out the circles. We're gonna make little dots. So find 12, right? This is 12 for this one. You make a little hole in the pattern piece. And then 12, follow it, I think. This is 12 down here. Now I'm going to mark it with the chalk, line it up as close as you can, pin it if you have to. And you're gonna make nice, bold chalk marks. Oh, I forgot to do some. All right. Now, if that doesn't look confusing, they want us to reinforce the circle here. So I believe it's this one. I'm gonna go ahead and kind of draw the lines on so I don't get confused. So we're And if you don't know what reinforce means, because I was kind of confused, go to the glossary and you'll see it says stitch along seam line where indicated in sewing instructions using small machine stitches. I don't know why I can't say that. Okay. All right. Okay, I reinforced, or what I believe to be reinforced. And now I'm going to cut diagonally, so that makes sense. Okay, we're gonna go like this. Yeah, okay, that, I guess they're doing that so you can make your darts more easily. That's fine. All right, we're ready to go to the machine. Okay, so when you do a dart, you want to go all the way to the edge and then kind of go backwards. Take your dart, take your project off the machine, clip the threads, and then do a little knot. You want to tie a couple knots. That helps the dart not look too pointy. Moving to step 4. So what they want you to do is cut a piece of elastic that is approximately 3¼ inch, and we're gonna fold it, hem it in like that, and then we're gonna attach it to this side. So do I have a ruler around here? When we come back, we're just gonna do the exact same thing with the front facing, which is essentially the same piece as this. It's just the top half. Okay, so it's the next day, and I'm going to pick up where I left off. We're doing the facing or the lining of the bodice piece, the front, which had the underskirt underneath. So basically doing exactly what we did last night, and now we should be in good shape to put some pieces together. This step, they want you to press the seam allowance of the shoulders for the facing piece. Okay, now we're going to attach the front and the front facing. We're now moving on to step 9 of the pattern, and we have just put the pattern facing or the lining over the front piece, okay, with right sides or the correct sides facing each other. And now we are going to stitch. We're going to stitch here, here. We're going to fold this down, this little seam allowance fold. We're going to stitch that flat, and we're going to sew along the neckline, and we're going to pivot the garment at the little circles, which are marked in the pattern. And at the end, we're going to clip to the seam, and we're also going to sew on this side down to the side. All right, so we're pivoting at the first little circle where we clipped. We're going around the armholes now, and I'm getting ready, I'm pressing down the fold here at the shoulder. All right, so here's the neckline, and they want us to cut diagonally to the circles. Don't cut through the seam though, just cut up to it. As I'm ironing, I'm trying to pull the seam towards me to make it flat, so that it's not like folding under itself and then you have like a tuck where the seam is. Now, I'm not doing a rolled hem, I'm just doing one fold over. It's gonna be under the skirt and it's in the back, so it's not even gonna show. Could it be? All right, step 12, fuse back interfacing to wrong side of one bodice section following manufacturer's instructions. All right, well, we're not doing the interfacing, so we're gonna scrap that one. Stitch darts in bodice. So we're doing something very similar to the last thing we did, or 2 steps ago. Rinse and repeat. One at a time. This is the front, so we'll put it down on the table. This could use a good iron, so maybe I'll do that really quick. This is an extremely dart heavy dress, so if you don't like doing darts, I don't recommend this pattern. Or if there's something you need to get good at, this will definitely get you out of your comfort zone. So we have the bodice and then the lining for the bodice. So let's say for these darts, we're gonna push them, we're gonna iron them away from center. And then with the lining, we will push them towards center so that when they stack on top of each other, they're not both going one direction. They're going like, it will lay flatter. We're going to take one of the pieces and we're going to fold the seam allowance on the shoulders and then at the hem, kind of like what we did for the other section. So that's not hard. I'm just going to iron the shoulders down and the bottom. So, right sides together. We're gonna clip the edges, and I always go like this when there is any sort of circular seam like this. Okay, and then after that we're gonna hem the skirt piece. Okay, it's coming along. Now we're gonna work on the skirt part. Moving on to step 19, pin skirt to bodice, matching centers and clipping skirt where necessary. Clipping skirt, oh, okay. Stitch keeping pressed edge of bodice facing free. Press seam towards bodice. Okay, so we're gonna press the seam up into the lining once we sew it together. Okay, now I'm going to sew the bodice to the skirt. So now we are going to attach the two pieces. And it came out really nice. This is why it like looks, this is the back and the inside, and they kind of look the same. We have the folded side. Okay, so we're going to sew the pieces, the edges that are not folded down, that are not ironed down. We're gonna match up at the notches. The shoulders, we stitched the shoulders together. Now we're gonna slip stitch the lining like this on both sides. Okay, so this is where we are in the process. And at first glance, it's like, oh wow, everything's coming together. This is great. I just ran into a major problem with this, and I don't know, it's probably because the fabric is all the same color and I went wrong somewhere along the way. But this piece, like the top piece that is connected, is inside out. So when we bring it to the front like this, and you know, these little pieces sit like this, and there's gonna be buttons and everything, the hem is on the outside. So this right now is the wrong side of the fabric, and it's sitting out on top. And I'm, you know, mildly devastated, honestly. It's like something is backwards, right? Because if I put it on like this, then we have the outside of this, but then this is correct. All right, this is really annoying, but this happens sometimes. And you have to figure out a way to either like fix it, make it wearable, because I'm refusing to give up. Every now and then I have to like just bag a project because it's beyond help, but this is not. This is just an unfortunate, I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention to, it was kind of like an optical illusion because it's it like flips over and you wear it like a smock. Do what we gotta do. Okay, so the right side, the correct side, is facing up. Now what we had before was the wrong side of this dress facing up. So I'm going to put the wrong side down. Okay, so this ended up not being as big a deal as I thought. I was really scared there for a moment, but I just took the shoulders out, flipped the dress around, and am reinstalling the shoulders. I'm not going to slip stitch it. I'm just gonna pin it and sew it across the machine because I did lose interest in doing more slip stitching. So to keep the project moving, we're just gonna do what we gotta do. Okay, now that I fixed the shoulders, we're at the home stretch. The only thing left to do, we're on step 24. Make buttonholes inside, front at markings. And then sew the buttons on, add the clasp to the elastic, and make the belt, and then we're done. Okay, so for buttonholes, you want to make sure that you have the buttonhole stitch lined up with the dot, and then you put your length in between 1 and 0, little buttonhole thing. I put on the buttonhole foot. I pulled down this lever that was up here, so just pull it down, and it will push, it will keep your buttonhole the right size. So that's very important that that's down. It is not to be confused with that. Start with the bottom of the buttonhole because it walks back. Okay, you can see that we have 3 buttonholes. I'm gonna go ahead and do that to the other side as well, but I'm gonna show you how to open these first. So you just take your seam ripper. You wanna be careful that you don't rip through the other side. So just like slice the fabric, and it's okay, you don't have to get right up to the edge. It's better if you don't. It can be a little tough, and if you're not careful, your hand can slip and then, you know, slice all the way through, which is, you just, yeah, I don't know, you gotta be careful.
so much. Let me know if this was easy to follow, if you have any suggestions, and also let me know what you'd like to see in